15 years of friendship with Aaron meant everything to me. We were like brothers sharing dreams and struggles since our college days. When I finally developed that breakthrough tech startup idea, I never thought twice about bringing him into my vision. I believed we would change our lives together. Looking back, I should have seen the warning signs. I trusted him completely, and he repaid that trust by stealing everything. Before I tell you how my best friend stole my million-dollar idea, drop a comment letting me know where you are watching from. Hit that subscribe button if you have ever trusted someone who did not deserve it. I graduated with a computer science degree from University of Washington, but finding a stable job in the tech industry proved harder than I expected. For years I bounced between freelance gigs and short-term contracts, barely making enough to pay the bills. My apartment was a tiny studio in the less desirable part of Seattle, with peeling wallpaper and noisy neighbors. My car was a beat-up Honda Civic with over 200,000 miles on it that broke down at least once every few months. Aaron and I met during our sophomore year of college when we were paired as lab partners in our data structures class. We instantly clicked, pulling countless all-nighters to finish projects and celebrating our small victories with cheap pizza and beer. After graduation, while many of our other friendships faded, ours only grew stronger. When my mom got sick 3 years ago, Aaron drove me to the hospital every day for 2 weeks. When he got laid off from his job during company downsizing, I let him crash on my couch for 3 months, until he found something new. "You are the only person who has always had my back," I told him one night after we had a few too many drinks at our favorite dive bar. "When we both finally make it big, I want you right there with me." "Dustin, you know I feel the same way," Aaron replied, raising his glass in a toast. Brothers for life through thick and thin. The idea for my app came to me one rainy Sunday afternoon when I was trying to find a plumber to fix my leaking sink. After calling 6 different businesses and leaving messages that went unreturned, I thought there had to be a better way to connect people with local service providers who were actually available right now. I envisioned a platform that would revolutionize how people found immediate help for household emergencies, car troubles, or even last-minute event staffing. I spent the next 3 months working on the concept every night after my day job. My tiny apartment became an unofficial office, with sticky notes covering my walls and wireframe sketches scattered across every surface. I taught myself new programming languages, built a basic prototype, and researched the market extensively. The more I worked on it, the more convinced I became that this could be something special. When I finally shared the idea with Aaron over beers one night, his eyes lit up immediately. "Dustin, this is brilliant," he said, flipping through my notebook of sketches and notes. "This could seriously change the game for service industries." "You really think so?" I asked, feeling a rush of validation. "I know so. The market is wide open for something like this," Aaron replied enthusiastically. "How can I help?" From that moment I shared everything with Aaron: my business plan, marketing strategy, technical specifications, even the algorithms I was developing to match service providers with customers based on proximity, availability. We started meeting 3 times a week at my place, ordering takeout, and working late into the night. Aaron brought a business perspective I lacked, helping me refine the pitch and identify potential revenue streams. "We are going to make it with this," Aaron said one night, as we looked at the prototype on my laptop screen. "I can feel it. This is our ticket out of the daily grind." "Our ticket," I repeated, smiling at the thought. "I could not do this without you." In hindsight, there were warning signs I completely missed. Aaron started canceling our work sessions, claiming he had important meetings, but being vague about the details. He suddenly seemed to have extra cash, wearing designer clothes, suggesting expensive restaurants for lunch, even mentioning he was looking at new apartments in upscale neighborhoods. "Business consulting on the side," he explained, when I asked about his improved finances. "Just some connections from my old job." I believed him because I wanted to believe him, because in 15 years he had never given me a reason not to. The first real sign that something was wrong came in the form of an email. I was at my day job, mindlessly debugging code for a client, when a notification popped up: "Exciting new app launch, connect now. Revolutionizing service provider connections." The description sounded eerily familiar. Too familiar. I clicked on the link, my heart starting to race as I read about an innovative new platform connecting people with immediate service needs to available local providers. The language was different, but the concept was identical to mine down to the matching algorithm and pricing structure. I scrolled down to the About Us section, and that is when I saw a professional headshot of Aaron under the title Founder and CEO. The room seemed to spin around me. I read and reread the page looking for any mention of myself or my contributions, but there was nothing. According to this website, Connect Now was solely Aaron's brainchild. I called him immediately, but the call went straight to voicemail. I texted, emailed, even messaged him on social media. No response. After work, I drove straight to his apartment, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. He answered the door, dressed in a crisp, button-down shirt, looking startled to see me. "What are you doing here?" he asked, not inviting me in. "What am I doing here? What are you doing, launching my app under your name?" I pushed past him into his apartment, which I noticed was filled with new furniture. "Dustin, calm down. Let me explain." "Explain what?" "How you stole my idea, my code, my business plan, everything we worked on together for months." Aaron's expression changed then, from surprise to something colder, more calculated. He closed the door and turned to face me. "I did not steal anything. I saw an opportunity, and I took it. That is business. Business. This was my idea, my concept, my code. We were supposed to be partners." Aaron shrugged, walking over to pour himself a drink. "You were moving too slowly. All those nights, coding and recoding, being too perfectionist about the user interface. The market waits for no one, Dustin, so you just took everything to investors and claimed it as your own." I felt sick to my stomach. "I refined the concept and made it marketable. Your version would never have gotten funding." He took a sip of his drink. "The investors loved it. $50,000 in seed funding with more coming, if we hit our launch milestones." $50,000. I whispered the number, hitting me like a physical blow. "How could you do this? I trusted you with everything." "That was your mistake," Aaron said, his voice devoid of any remorse. "Look, you are a great programmer, but you lack business acumen. You never would have been able to pitch this successfully." "We were friends," I said, my voice breaking. "Best friends. And I did you a favor by not letting your idea die on your laptop," Aaron countered. "Besides, my version is different enough legally. If you try to compete or claim ownership, I will sue you for intellectual property infringement. My investors have very good lawyers." I left his apartment in a daze, barely remembering the drive home. That night I could not sleep, replaying every conversation, every late-night work session, trying to pinpoint when exactly Aaron had decided to betray me. The next few weeks were a blur of pain and anger. I stopped going to our usual hangouts, afraid of running into mutual friends who might have already heard Aaron's version of events. My work suffered. I lost weight. Every time I looked at the code on my laptop, the hours and hours of work I had poured into my dream, I felt physically ill. Word spread quickly through our circle. Some friends reached out asking for my side of the story, but others simply disappeared, clearly believing Aaron's claims that he was the true innovator, and I was just jealous of his success. "I always thought you were the more talented one," said Jake, a college friend who called to check on me. "But Aaron has been telling everyone you tried to take credit for his concept after he refined it and found funding." "That is a complete lie," I said the words, feeling hollow even as I spoke them. How could I prove who had the original idea? My social media feeds became torture devices filled with updates about Connect Now's impending launch and congratulatory messages to Aaron about his entrepreneurial vision. Each post felt like another knife twisting in my back. I began to question everything: my abilities, my judgment, even my own memories. Had I somehow misremembered who came up with what? Was I really too slow, too perfectionist? Would I have failed if I had tried to launch this on my own? The doubt crept in like poison. Eventually, I stopped working on any version of the app. What was the point? Aaron had the funding, the connections, and now the public recognition. I was just a bitter ex-friend, with lines of code that would never see the light of day. I deleted my social media accounts, worked my day job robotically, and came home to stare at the walls of my apartment, feeling like everything I had worked for had been stolen from me. Rock bottom came on a Tuesday. I had been let go from my day job due to decreased productivity, fair enough, since I had been a shell of myself for weeks. With no income, a dwindling savings account, and my dream project stolen, I seriously considered giving up on tech altogether. Maybe I would move back to my hometown, take any job I could find, and try to forget I ever thought I could build something meaningful. That afternoon I wandered into a coffee shop I had never been to before, simply because it was far from my usual haunts, and I was unlikely to run into anyone I knew. I ordered the cheapest coffee on the menu and sat in a corner mindlessly scrolling through job listings on my phone. "Excuse me, is this seat taken?" I looked up to see a woman gesturing to the chair across from me. The cafe was packed, every other table occupied. "No, go ahead," I said, barely making eye contact. She sat down with her laptop and what looked like a stack of legal documents. I tried to return to my job search, but after a few minutes of silence, she spoke again. "Rough day," I glanced up, about to brush off the question with a polite non-answer, but something in her direct gaze made me pause. "Rough month, actually," I admitted. "I am Sophia," she said, extending her hand. "Tech lawyer. I specialize in intellectual property and startup law. The universe has a strange sense of humor sometimes." "Dustin," I replied, shaking her hand. "Unemployed programmer with a stolen startup idea." I expected her to laugh or change the subject, but instead she closed her laptop. "That sounds like a story I might be able to help with, professionally speaking." Maybe it was desperation, or maybe just the need to tell someone the whole sordid tale. But I found myself explaining everything to this stranger. The idea, the months of work, Aaron's betrayal, the funding, the threats of legal action. When I finished, Sophia was quiet for a moment, tapping her pen against her coffee cup. "Do you still have your original code repositories?" she finally asked. "Yes. Everything is on my laptop and backed up to the cloud. With timestamps. Of course." A slight smile appeared on her face. "Then you might be in a better position than you think. Code commits have timestamps that cannot be easily altered. If your work predates his public launch or funding pitch, it does by months." I interrupted, feeling a flicker of hope for the first time in weeks. "Then you have evidence of original authorship," Sophia said. "And if he altered any timestamps on documents he presented to investors, that is fraud." That conversation with Sophia changed everything. Over the next week, we dug into every piece of evidence I had. Code repositories with clear timestamps, email exchanges with Aaron, discussing the concept, even text messages, where he acknowledged my ownership of the idea. Sophia helped me organize it all chronologically, building a clear paper trail that proved I was the original creator. We also discovered something crucial: Aaron had misrepresented several key technical features to his investors. He had promised functionality that he did not know how to build himself, since those parts of the code were exclusively my work and not included in what he had taken. He oversold capabilities. He does not have the expertise to deliver, Sophia explained. That is a serious problem for him. Investors hate being misled about technical specifications. For the first time since discovering the betrayal, I began to see a path forward. Not just a way to expose Aaron's deception, but potentially a way to reclaim my idea and my future. "What do you think I should do?" I asked Sophia. "Stop thinking like a victim and start thinking like a competitor," she replied. "You are the original innovator here. You understand the technical aspects better than he does. Use that advantage." Her words resonated deeply. I had been so focused on what had been taken from me that I had forgotten what I still possessed: my skills, my knowledge, and now evidence of my authorship. I threw myself into action. First, I reached out to several developers who had seen early versions of my work, securing statements, confirming they had witnessed my development process months before Aaron's launch announcement. Then I created a comprehensive document detailing the evolution of the project, supported by dated evidence at every stage. With Sophia's guidance, I drafted a careful email to Aaron's investors, not making accusations, but simply presenting evidence that raised serious questions about the origins of Connect Now and its technical capabilities. We included code samples showing my original work alongside screenshots from Aaron's pitch deck, highlighting discrepancies and technical impossibilities in what he had promised to deliver. While waiting for a response, I returned to coding, not trying to replicate my original idea, but evolving it into something more advanced. If Aaron wanted to steal version 1, I would create version 2 with enhanced features and capabilities he could never deliver. Through Sophia's connections, I secured a meeting with a different group of investors, ones with a reputation for due diligence and technical knowledge. I was terrified, but prepared, walking them through both my evidence of original authorship and my enhanced vision for the platform. "We have seen similar situations before," said the lead investor after my presentation. "Ideas get stolen, unfortunately. But rarely does the original creator have such clear documentation and technical superiority." 2 days later, I received news that Aaron's investors were conducting an internal review of their funding decision based on the information I had provided. A week after that, a former colleague texted me. Aaron was panicking, trying to deliver on technical promises he could not fulfill, hiring freelance developers at premium rates to try to build what he had already claimed was built. The house of cards was beginning to collapse. The unraveling happened faster than I expected. Within 3 weeks of my outreach, Aaron's primary investors pulled their funding, citing material misrepresentations in his pitch. The tech community in Seattle is small, and word spread quickly. Former supporters distanced themselves, and his professional reputation took a serious hit. I did not celebrate his downfall. There was no satisfaction in watching someone I had once considered a brother self-destruct through his own dishonesty. Instead, I focused on moving my own venture forward. With solid evidence of my original authorship and a more advanced version of the platform, I secured legitimate funding, $700,000 in seed money, from investors who valued both the idea and the integrity behind it. We incorporated with proper legal protection, with Sophia joining as our company counsel. 6 months later, we launched Service Link, the evolved version of my original concept. The response exceeded even my optimistic projections. Within 3 months, we had 20,000 users and partnerships with service providers across 3 major cities. The problem I had identified that rainy Sunday afternoon was real, and our solution was working. One quiet evening, as I was leaving the office, a real office now, with a team of 8 employees, I checked my personal email and found a message from an address I immediately recognized: Aaron's. "Dustin, I know I am probably the last person you want to hear from. I messed up in ways I cannot fix. What I did to you was unforgivable. I convinced myself it was just business, but I betrayed my best friend and lost myself in the process. I am not asking for forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I recognize the magnitude of my mistake. Congratulations on your success, it is well deserved. Aaron." I sat in my car for a long time after reading that email, feeling a complex mix of emotions. There was still hurt, still anger, but also a strange sense of closure. I never replied to his message. Some bridges cannot be rebuilt once they have been burned so thoroughly. The journey of healing took time. For months after the betrayal, I struggled with trust issues, second-guessing every new business relationship and friendship. Therapy helped, as did the unwavering support of my new team, especially Sophia, who eventually became more than just our company counsel. As ServiceLink grew, I made conscious decisions about the kind of company culture we would build. Transparency became our core value. We implemented profit sharing for early employees. We created clear attribution policies for all innovations. Sometimes these choices cost us money in the short term, but they built a foundation of trust that proved invaluable as we expanded. The irony was not lost on me that Aaron's betrayal, painful as it was, led to circumstances that ultimately benefited my vision. Without that devastating push, I might never have connected with Sophia. I might never have been forced to evolve my concept into something stronger. I might never have learned critical lessons about business protection and documentation. Sometimes the worst things that happen to you end up saving you from something else, my grandfather used to say. I never fully understood that wisdom until I lived it. 3 years after that coffee shop meeting with Sophia ServiceLink was acquired by a larger tech company for $17 million. The day the acquisition was finalized, I drove past Aaron's old apartment building, feeling not spite or triumph, but gratitude for the painful lesson that had ultimately led to success. The most important thing I learned through this entire experience was that true success is not just about the idea or even its execution. It is about maintaining your integrity along the way. Aaron got what he thought he wanted for a brief moment, but lost something much more valuable: his character, his friendships, his reputation. I gained more than just financial success. I gained wisdom about human nature, about business, about resilience. I learned that the right path is rarely the easiest one, but it is the only one that allows you to look at yourself in the mirror each morning without regret. Now, whenever I mentor young entrepreneurs, I tell them to protect their ideas, but not to be paralyzed by fear of theft. Document everything I advise. But remember that your greatest asset is not just your idea. It is your unique ability to execute it, to adapt when challenged, and to maintain your integrity when tested. The greatest irony of betrayal is that it teaches you your own strength. Had Aaron never stolen my idea, I might never have discovered what I was truly capable of building. Not just a successful company, but a life defined by resilience and integrity, rather than bitterness and regret. Have you ever had someone betray your trust, and it actually led to something better in your life? Drop a comment below, sharing your story. I read every comment and would love to hear how you turned pain into progress. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to support the channel. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that sometimes our biggest setbacks lead to our greatest comebacks. Thank you for listening, and remember, your response to betrayal reveals more about your character than the betrayal itself does.